Okay, well, I've got 6:02, so I'll get us started here. So hi everyone, like I said before, my name is Tommy Jones, one of the co-hosts of Data Science DC. We're here to see Jeff Hale, also my co-host for Data Science DC, or one of my co-hosts, present on Python tools to deploy your machine learning models faster. As I usually say, I mean, that's what we're here for. If you weren't expecting this, you're more than welcome to stay because we'd love to have you. So for those that are here for the first time, Data Science DC is part of Data Community DC, which is an umbrella organization for several different data science related meetups and other community events in the Washington, DC area. Data Community DC, as the name implies, is dedicated to building a community of practice in data science. Originally for data scientists in the Washington, DC area, but now as we're going into year two of remote meetups, thanks to COVID, we've been getting people not only all over the United States, but all over the world. So if you're coming from somewhere far away, welcome. And it's always fun if you want to throw where you're meeting us from in the chat, so we can see how far we're getting. So on the right here, you can see a link to our website and the Twitter handle there as well. And Jeff has shared a link to our Slack channel. We couldn't do this without our sponsors. Right now we have 3 sponsors: Prefect, ATA, or 2 sponsors, Prefect and ATA. They help provide licensing for the Zoom license that lets us hold these, as well as some of our administrative costs. But all the members of Data Community DC are volunteers, so it's just to keep the lights on. Right now we have 4 coordinators for Data Science DC. You can see myself and Jeff, we're in the middle there. We also have Janet Dobbins, who is away in Florida right now, and Christopher Smith, who also help us put on these events. So big thanks to them. So we have a code of conduct here. I have a policy against reading slides to people, but I'll summarize it while you guys read. Basically, the gist of this is, don't be a jerk. We really will not tolerate harassment or bullying of anyone at our events. And if, for those in the audience here, if you see or hear something from anyone that makes you feel uncomfortable, you can send a direct message to Jeff Hale or me, Tommy Jones, and we'll do what we can immediately. And so we also have a diversity statement. So, this, back in the before times, we'd meet in person, which we're hoping to get back to, or at least hybrid here very soon, like within the next month or two. This is where I would tell everyone to look around the room to see both the gender and racial diversity of the audience. And those are, of course, just the things you can see. But our pledge to you, as the people who are putting this on, is that we want our speakers throughout the year to reflect the same level of diversity as the audience. And so we ask you all to keep us to that. So if you think we could do a better job, please reach out and let us know, and we will do better. But we aim to have a pretty diverse set of speakers all throughout the year. So we've got a couple upcoming events here in Data Community DC. So on April 12th, we've got network-based trajectory analytics of topic interactions for COVID-19 literature. That sounds pretty exciting. And then on May 10th, scaling and distributing Python and ML applications with Ray. So those are our next 2 meetups here for Data Science DC, and we've got the link there, although I assume if you're here in the audience, you probably already found that link at least once. So we'll get these posted here in the chat, but we record almost all of our meetups and post them to our YouTube channel. So encourage you all to check that out. And then, we've already shared the link, but please join us on Slack, and we'd love to hear from you in between these events. But you can also post any questions or comments or announcements as we go along the way into the Zoom chat as well. And so with that, I'd say if anyone has any community announcements, if you're looking to hire, if you're looking to be hired, if you're looking to announce any upcoming events of your own, please throw that in the chat as well. And with that, I'm going to stop sharing, and then I'm going to turn it over to Jeff to talk about Python tools to deploy machine learning models faster. Over to you, Jeff.
Great, thank you, Tommy. I'm going to share my screen here. Is that coming through okay for you, Tommy?
Yes, it is.
Excellent. You can hear me all right. That's great. So my attempt here to get a poll going on Data to Community DC Slack. We've been growing our Data Community DC Slack, and we're experimenting with some things here, so I had to reinstall Simple Poll. I think that went through okay. If you're over there and you're in the DSDC-members, if you can join that, there is a poll there for you. I don't see that anyone has hit any responses on it yet, so I'm not sure if it's working for everybody, but I will try to, I have to put HTTP. Yeah, you gotta, sorry, I put the, send the Slack link. Yeah, so Slack link is right there. Oh, great, awesome. We got that Data Community DC YouTube link there also. And there's a lot of great channels over in the Data Community DC Slack. So do feel free to check those out if you're into, there's one for data viz, there's one for jobs, we got memes, we got all kinds of things. So come over and check that out. So I'll leave that poll open for a little bit and just see what folks have used. The question is about what have people used for any potential frameworks for deploying models. And I'm going to put one other question in Slack too, which is just what are folks hoping to gain today? So I can try to address that and keep that in mind as I'm working. So just you can answer in a thread. That'd be great. Awesome. Well, thank you all for joining us and taking time out of your Tuesday evening to learn a little bit more about some tools that might help you get some machine learning models deployed a little bit faster. It's been an exciting time the past couple of years in the Python deployment kind of space. We've seen some new tools that make getting prototypes and even more full-featured things out a little faster. And my goal today here is to kind of whet your appetite to explore some of these a little more, hopefully get a little more comfortable with them. Would not say I'm an expert with any of them. I've taught Streamlit to my students a number of times. I teach data science at General Assembly, and I taught Streamlit and Flask, kind of basics to my students. But I wouldn't say I'm an expert with them. So, but I do feel like I have some fluency with them all and want to share them with you. If you want to reach me, places to do this here. I will share these slides after the talk on SlideShare also, in case you want to go back to anything. And we'll get this up on YouTube, get the talk up on YouTube as soon as we can too. So I'm your pilot. I don't know the pilot's license, so be forewarned. I'm not going to make a sign wave or anything, but here's a picture of me 10 years ago. Okay, so do check out those questions in Slack if you would, please. We're going to talk about Gradio. We're going to talk about Streamlit. We're going to talk about FastAPI. That's our main goal here today, and maybe we'll mention Flask briefly. We're not really going to cover Django, so that's where we are. So for each of these, we're going to do a little, here's what hello world looks like. I'm going to show you that. I'll show you a little bit of code and a little example of what showing the data looks like, and what it might look like to make a quick plot. And then how we might make a prediction with a machine learning model and serve that up. And we'll talk about the pros and cons for each of these 3 different frameworks. And then at the end, we'll talk about some takeaways and recommendations, and we do a little Q&A, and also give you a little questionnaire. We're data folks after all, right? We want to get some data, so a very brief questionnaire here. I see Will says in Slack, love FastAPI. Yeah, it's got a lot to love. So definitely good for a lot of use cases, as you'll see in a bit. If you have questions throughout the talk, please feel free to put them in Slack or in chat. I'll try to monitor both of those. And if I miss it, Tommy is likely to catch up. Pick it up. All right, so that's our plan here. I do have a GitHub repo also, and I'm going to put the link to the slides here after this is all done. Yet, but the GitHub repo for this that has a lot of different little apps here. I'll put this both into Slack and also into the chat on Zoom. We're going to have a notebook we will use here. So I don't have a notebook here, Karim, but I do have the code. It's all Python scripts and a couple of HTML files too, plus a few other extra ones. I'm not going to be live coding everything. I'm going to be I have copy pasted some code and taken some screenshots, just because it would be a whole lot of starting and stopping servers, and that would invite more of a disaster than we want at this point. So Gradio, let's talk about Gradio first. I'm kind of going with the whole aeronautical theme here, and Gradio I think of as an ultralight little plane. It's new. It's the newest of the different frameworks we're going to look at. It's pretty quick to get going, as you'll see in a minute, but it's definitely still a little experimental, a little rough around the edges. Might be the kind of thing that your insurance company might not cover. So, be forewarned. But lots of exciting things happening with Gradio, as we'll talk about. Okay, so first demo here, little hello world. Let's get off the ground. We're going to be using the Palmer Penguins data set. This is a Gen 2 penguin, in case you were wondering. And you may not have known this, but if you get a group of penguins in the water, it's called a raft. But on land, they are called a waddle. Interesting, huh? Other names for penguins, group penguins, rookery, colony, or huddle. I feel like those are some kind of tools you can work into your next time you do something with penguins. All right, so you got to install Gradio here. You do that with this pip install Gradio into your virtual environment, and then it's this Python Gradio hello.py, and I'll show you the code for that in just a second. And we get something like this. It's the UI is I guess fairly basic, and you don't get a lot of customizability necessarily, but you get a quick widget that you can use. You can throw in some, in this case, we're storing in a word and it's outputting it in a string. So that's all it's doing, a little HTML. So you can quickly take a screenshot if you want, or if you want to, this is kind of designed for prototyping. If you want to give some feedback to the developer, you can flag it and it shows up for them. So what does it look like to make this? Well, it's a pretty quick little widget here. Just import Gradio. GR is kind of the alias that's commonly used. And you make a function. And then you pass that function into the interface, the Gradio interface. That's kind of where all the magic happens. So FN there is the function, hello. And you tell what you want the inputs and outputs to be. So in this case, we're just doing a little bit of text in, a little bit of text out, and you put a .launch on it, and it's ready to go. So it's pretty quick to get going off the ground. So second thing I want to try to see how we can do is show some data. So a lot of these frameworks are really designed for data and for data folks' needs. So having the ability to do something with the data set, with the data frame, if it's Panda's data frame, is nice. So right here, we're just going to load in those penguins we were talking about before. I've truncated some parts of the code, but main thing is make a function and throw that function into the interface class. And the input here is going to be a little text, but we'll spit out, it's kind of just a default. It's not clear there's an easy way to avoid having some kind of input like that. Might just be kind of an artifact of a little bit of rough around the edges still. But we're going to spit out a data frame. And we can say what we want the description of that to be. And if you say share equals true, you get a 72-hour link that's good to the external world, just like that. So it's a pretty nice thing for showing, prototyping and showing what you're working on to other people on your team. So this is what that might look like. If you just hit submit here, you'll get a data frame that'll show up. You can now sort it and do other things with it. It's pretty quick. As of the fall, there were some bugs that would kind of crash things, but those are all fixed and resolved now. So you can put more than 10 lines of code in there just fine. So like I said, still a little rough around the edges, but some nice features coming. All right, so third demo here, plotting. So I wanted to do Plotly for interactive plotting. Plotly is a great library. If you haven't checked it out before, strongly encourage you to do so. But it doesn't yet work with Gradio. It's supposed to, at least maybe you can massively hack around it somehow, but it's supposed to work pretty much natively seamlessly with version 2.9. We're on version 2.8.7 right now, so hopefully that's very soon. But you can use matplotlib as of some recent updates. That was not the case until recently. I filed an issue on that, and luckily they got it done pretty quickly. So similarly, you can here we're gonna have some code. This is gonna make a plot basically. So the whole point here is display a plot. It's not maybe the most aesthetically beautiful thing. You see that we have a title here for the page. We have the plot. We could put some nice XY axes and whatever, but just want to show you that we can get a plot out here. And we can have a little bit of more text elsewhere on the page, but this is a very opinionated single page app right here. Okay. So what does it look like to make this? Again, just kind of the relevant parts here, read in the data, and we can make a matplotlib figure and output it. So it's not too painful, and we can put that function into our interface class and send it out. That's kind of how everything works, right? So we have a number of different arguments we can pass here that can control how that page looks. That's how we get our title, how we get our description. And there's a theme. So that's how we got the beautiful peach coloring that I think everyone would run home and wants a peach background. It looks like that, right? So there's a number of things you can do with the arguments here, and this is how you do it. And then our final demo here, making a prediction. So this is where Gradio shines. It has a very nice integration with Hugging Face. And Hugging Face is if you're not familiar, is a wonderful place to get all kinds of deep learning models and data sets. It's really great what they're doing in the machine learning space, the deep learning space. So just super exciting stuff happening with Hugging Face. So this is a GPT-2 model here, natural language model, where we can start with just a little bit of input and it'll spit out some output. It's writing the rest of the story for us. Now, how good is this story? If you can see it on the screen here, if it's big enough for you, it was a dark and stormy night. Can result in a couple of different outputs. There's a number of different ones that can come out here, but pretty quickly it will spit out something like, it was a dark and stormy night. I think there was rain in there. The sky was dark and wet. The house was a bit ragged as usual. She was a little blah, blah, blah. So some of these come out, like maybe a plausible start to a story. Sometimes not so much, but it's that easy to get that model in there. It's really just 2 lines. So you do need to have TensorFlow or PyTorch also installed, but it's pretty cool how quick that is. That's really one of the places Gradio shines. If you want to make things prettier, you can go in and change the CSS manually. This is maybe not how you would want to do things on a large scale project, but again, this is for a quick demo, a quick app that you just want to kind of prototype. Could work out well. So if you want to make it a little prettier, you can change the background and make it a little nicer. You do get to see the docs here with just one click here. If you want to grab that data API, you can do that. On the app, on the website, it's just a single button you can click and you get some information, which is pretty nice. And Python, JavaScript, and curl there to see exactly what code you might use to query it. So that's a pretty slick little integration, I think. So pros here, it's nice for quick demos. It also has some interpretability built in. If they're thinking about interpretability, which I really like. It doesn't always work super well, but you can get some, usually the SHAP library pretty right out the gate. Just have to install it. It does have automatic documentation, which is nice, and really great Hugging Face models we saw before. And really easy to host at Hugging Face Spaces, free hosting over there. So that's really nice. If you haven't checked that out, do check that out. I do have a live example over here of this app running, the last one here, the GPT-2 prediction, where you could type data science DC is a really fun group. Let's see what happens here. I've never done this before. I would recommend you give it your all. Okay, that's great. Yeah, the GPT-2 model is doing its thing here. It's really nice. So you can go in and see my code here. You can files and versions is what you want. You can see how this was made. You can easily push things over from GitHub. So it's pretty slick. I really think it's worth checking out if you haven't before. And I'm going to try to be good here about sharing sharing things as we go. So here is just a link to Gradio. I'll put this in the Meetup and the Zoom. And I'll also put in, here's the link to that little live demo if you want to play with that little live demo. Because I'm trying to encourage everybody to do this over on Slack too. I'll throw these in Slack too. Okay, cool. So what's maybe some cons here? What's a little bumpy in the air? It is a little rough around the edges. Things are changing very fast, and it's good that there's a lot of attention to details over there, but there's still, things are a little rough. It is not easy to customize things. This is a single page app, and we've seen that you can go in and customize CSS. There are other things you can do, but it's not something where we can make a router and make a full-fledged multi-page app and very easily. I will say that the lead maintainer and the kind of inventor of it, Abu Bakr Abid, recently he's the person behind it. He's combining his efforts now with Hugging Face. The company was acquired by Hugging Face just a month or two ago. So Hugging Face is doing lots of great things. As I mentioned before, I think there's a lot of excitement here and a lot of interesting possibilities. So keep an eye on what keeps coming of Gradio, now they're part of Hugging Face. Okay, questions? Any questions about anything with Gradio? You got anything? Throw it in Slack. I'll pick it up now or hit it later. All right, cool. So let's move on to Streamlit. Streamlit is our second framework we want to look at. If Gradio was that ultralight, I would say that the Streamlit is our little jet here, maybe a Cessna Citation Longitude, because that's what I can find a picture of online. It's light, quick to take off, easy flying. And as Will points out, Streamlit got acquired. We'll talk about that here. Yeah, I do want to talk about the long-term health of both of these. All three of these projects, actually. It's a great question. Slack link. Yep. I think Tommy can maybe put that back in there. Great. Got it. Boom. Reading the mind. So there you go. All right. So Streamlit, hello world. Streamlit's really just nice, easy to deal with. So print out hello world to your hello from Streamlit to your screen. Streamlit, just import Streamlit as ST. That's how things are usually done. It's the convention. And here I make my name, the name variable, and I use an F string, put that into the message here, and boom, pip install Streamlit and run this from your command line. Streamlit run Streamlit hello.py, and you will see hello from Streamlit. And you should see my name there, but I guess I didn't update that. So it's super quick to get going. Really a big fan of how easy it is to start with Streamlit. One thing that it really excels at is showing data. You can use a pandas data frame right out of the box, and it has very nice widgets. So this is a checkbox widget here. In one line, you get a checkbox. If you click the checkbox, it will show the data frame. If you uncheck it, it will not show the data frame. You can sort those columns just by clicking on the headers. You can expand them. It's very nice. So big fan of how easy it is to use Streamlit. To get this, it's only a few lines of code here. This is the entirety of the code with a short URL. That's it for the Penguins. So I think the widgets here, keeping everything in Python, makes Streamlit super nice. If you were at a DataViz DC meetup hosted by Will a couple months back, a year back, boy, it's been the pandemic, maybe 2 years back, that Data Science DC also helped out with. We were there, and Randy Switch, their developer advocate, was talking through Streamlit, and Will was showing off some of his stuff. So maybe we have a video of that somewhere if you're interested. But you know, this is something we've talked about before, Data Science DC, and it is definitely worth talking about more. So plotting, it is a little bit trickier to get a plot, but not too much trickier. So this is just, again, a widget here where we can either choose to have the color of our 3D scatter plot be by species or island of our penguins, and you can just toggle it and change it. So it's pretty cool. Again, just another widget you can use. And with the power of Plotly, you can download an image. You can do lots of things to zoom in and play with it. So it's pretty fun. So it's just the radio button widget that we use here, and just a quick line like this gets you that functionality, that interactive widget. So it's really quite nice. Not too tough. All right. Next up, our fourth demo here is doing a little prediction. So again, we're trying to keep a similar theme here across our different frameworks. If we're doing a prediction with GPT-2, you can see that pretty nicely. It just takes a little bit more typing, a little more code than we did with Gradio, but it's not a whole bunch at all. We just need to import Hugging Face's pipeline from its transformers. And we can use our headers to say that we want some large text. Each one turns into H1 HTML. And you can throw in input text through st.textArea widget. Feed it into our pipeline. And there you go. So it's pretty nice to get that out so quickly. And if you want to make it look a little nicer, you can control styling by a theme in either a YAML file, or you can just go and do it right in your app as it's working if you're just kind of testing it. So again, very nice for demos here. Single page, unless you're really going to kind of contort things a good bit, but it works pretty well. And Streamlit's been adding more and more functionality. One thing I really like about the organization is that they have a pretty steady development cadence. And you can now put things into columns. So there's an example where we're doing things in columns, and it's the same idea. It's a GPT-2 model with a little bit nicer formatting. And to get there, just use some context blocks. There you go. So Streamlit does have a number of different ways you can serve it. You can serve it from Streamlit servers for free if it's up to 3 apps and 50 megabyte data limit. So that's nice if that works for you. You know, those are not meant for high traffic. They will go to sleep if no one goes there, or low traffic. They'll go to sleep if no one is there for a while. But that's a nice option for just playing around with it. You can go to Hugging Face Spaces. There's a nice integration there for Streamlit. Or you go to Heroku. Maybe a little bit more painful, but still free for a lot of cases. Or you can pay Streamlit. That's how they make most of their money, or they did. They still do. But as Will also points out, they were recently acquired. And you can host it somewhere else if you want. So lots of options there. A couple cons here. Now, some of the customization is pretty cumbersome. Again, you're not going to get a big app that you can do lots of things with. It is more meant for demos, maybe for internal dashboards, quick things like that. But it's just really nice and quick to get going. So Snowflake acquired Streamlit last week. It was announced for $800 million. So congrats to the folks at Streamlit. So what does that mean for the future? I think that's a great question. I think for Hugging Face, you know, I think we expect a lot of investment for Gradio, for Snowflake, presumably also. It's a growing company that is now public and wants to try to keep users happy. Will it mean less benefits on a free option? I don't know. Yeah, numbers that large you make you want to start a company. That's the point, right? These are 2 wins here in this space for startups, for sure. But great open source Python packages that we can all use and hopefully will continue to be developed. I think that the long-term funding there should be good for both companies. That's my hope anyway. All right, final one we want to look at here is FastAPI. So if our other frameworks for smaller planes, I'm saying FastAPI is more like a Boeing 737. It's something that's used, you know, more widely in production. It's commercial grade here. It's fast. It's a plane smart. I don't know, but it's a pretty smart choice, I think, now for a lot of use cases. All right, so hitting our couple demos here. It's a little bit more work here. This isn't going to be a quick, easy startup necessarily, but it's also not too painful. We do need to import Unicorn for actually serving things up here, and FastAPI class also from FastAPI. And this should look a lot like Flask. If you haven't used FastAPI, there's a lot of similarities here. It was inspired by Flask, and it's meant to be easy to come over from Flask. So we're going to give just a little bit of information back to folks here. And by default, we're going to give back some JSON. So FastAPI is all about JSON, you know, serving data. It can work in HTML land, but it's not so much what it was designed for. And it's a little bit more cumbersome. So we'll see in a minute. But one thing that it is fast. FastAPI does live up to its billing there. So why is that? Well, it's using Starlet under the hood. When this is an ASGI framework, asynchronous server gateway interface, as opposed to a WSGI. So we can have things that are running asynchronously. That's what gives it a lot of its power. It is benchmarked as the fastest Python framework. The Tech Empower benchmark is, they look at all kinds of frameworks. And I will just say here, if anyone is not a Python native person, you might be saying, oh yeah, well, Python's not actually that fast when you look at all the JavaScript frameworks. Yes, you're absolutely right. But there's lots of other nice things. So it's obviously, there's some traction for some of these companies here. I am going to share a couple things here as we go. Just the main Streamlit page in case you didn't want to Google it. And I've got a live Streamlit, or kind of a demo Streamlit app you can play with that has a number of different ways to look at plotting libraries in Python, which is just kind of a fun app I made a while back. And then I'll put out here the FastAPI docs also. And I love the FastAPI docs. One thing across all of these is that there's some pretty strong docs. The Streamlit docs, the FastAPI docs are really, really top notch. And the Gradio docs are pretty good too. So I'll share those both in Zoom and in Slack. Okay, cool. All right, so FastAPI. One thing that's nice is you can get these quick automatic documents that you can use and test in real time here. So Gradio just switched over to using FastAPI instead of Flask. So I think that's interesting and worth noting also. This is just really nice. You can just get this by typing in /docs for any app. Just add /docs to the URL and you'll get these automatic documentation, interactive docs. So it's really quite nice. So if you wanted to see what the data looks like here, again, to get some data back for FastAPI, it's more likely that we want to get back just JSON here. So that's what we're doing. We're just going to return some JSON. And you can get back a whole bunch. I won't print all of it, but there's the first little bit of it for you. So it's nice. You can just say return a data frame and you'll get a pandas data frame and you'll get back JSON right out of the gate. With Flask, that's not the case. It's not a whole lot more work, but you have to JSONify it yourself. All right, so looking at another demo here, plotting. Again, like I said, FastAPI isn't really all about HTML. It's all about the API. So to get there, you can still get there, but you have to take the figure, send it to use a .toHTML function with it, use an HTML response, which you also need to import. I've abbreviated this somewhat here. So there's just a few more little steps, not a lot, but a little bit more. And then if you want to make a prediction with FastAPI, so I know everyone is a big fan of the housing in Ames, Iowa. If you've ever seen the Ames, Iowa housing data set. And we're going to make a little form here where people can put in a couple of important features and get a prediction on what their house might have been worth 10 years ago in Ames, Iowa. So to make this form, you can use Jinja templates, just like with Flask, but there's a little bit more code needed to get there, but not too much more. And so we can have asynchronous functions here, and we can play with the HTML template if we want, so we can do different things with it. So we can get data from the user, and we can use Pydantic, which is a Python library that helps to take information that's available in some code hinting, type hinting, and use that information. So FastAPI is really smart about using type hinting information to help develop some of the information for those docs and to enforce certain data types. So that's really nice. We can use a Pydantic model, inherit from the base model, and then use that even in our form to help us get further along the way. So it's a little bit of a pain to set up, but it can give you some nice functionality. And then at the end of the day, you get a prediction back, like, oh, that house back there was, our model thought was worth $231,000 in Ames. So that's exciting. You want to send that information back to your user, you can do that. You can just use the post method and send it back. Using decorators a lot like Flask. It should feel quite familiar. And Sebastian Ramirez, the author of the library, does give full credit to Flask for a lot of the inspiration here. So this is what Zillow did. Will is asking, we could have a whole meetup or drink night or something about Zillow. If anyone's seen Zillow in the intersection of data science and business need and how that all plays out in a real estate market when you're trying to buy houses. Yes, very interesting. That would be fun. Think about that. Cool. All right, so we're going to process here the information we got from the user's form, and I've omitted a lot of the code where we actually do the work on that. But we have to send back the results. So this is how we do that. And this is what our HTML template page looks like here, our Jinja form or our Jinja template, where we are able to inject some information from our Python code and spit back what that prediction is. So FastAPI is the fastest of those Python API frameworks because of the asynchronicity. So it's nice. It's certainly growing a lot in terms of mind shares. We'll see in a minute. I'll show you a couple charts on that. The automatic API documentation is really great, and the docs are just super extensive. It's amazing. Really, they're very nice. It has a nice test client built in too, like way easier to deal with than with Flask. So that's nice. Nice for dependency injection, the way it handles that as opposed to Flask. And the data validation stuff is just really slick, and also can work with your SQL, potentially also your SQL database, using SQL model, which is a package by the same author. So kind of like double duty there to just save a lot of code. Very, very nice. And it does have some nice kind of right out of the box security and authentication support. So a lot of work went into this by Sebastian Ramirez, and I think it's really awesome what he's been able to accomplish. I think that one of the risks is that the library is very dependent on Sebastian Ramirez. He's the single maintainer on it. So he's doing a great job, but that always is a little bit of a risk, I think. There are some pains. It does take some work to override some logging from Uvicorn. HTML templating, if you really want to work with HTML and you don't want to like use React as a front end or something else as a front end for this, Svelte or some other framework, maybe you want to go with something else. Maybe you want to stick with Flask, or maybe you want to use something else. It's really not the strong suit of FastAPI. All right, let's grab our luggage here. A couple big takeaways. Just in terms of like, what are you getting here? Yeah, you can see some data APIs pretty quickly from Gradio and FastAPI. FastAPI is that's really what its strength is. For the web apps, Gradio and Streamlit are great for these quick web apps, these little demos, these prototypes. If you want something more full featured, you can use FastAPI with the Jinja templates if you want, or some other front end. So those are some options for you. In terms of popularity, GitHub stars are not everything, but they're, I think, maybe the best thing we've got in terms of popularity here. And in red, we have FastAPI, blue is Streamlit, and yellow is Gradio. And they're all certainly on an upward trend here. FastAPI, kind of catering to a very large market, is got the steepest curve. So I like to see that kind of slope there. But Streamlit and Gradio actually have, kind of a business behind them too, and they've certainly been able to do all right recently. And if you want to look at just comparing Flask to FastAPI, Flask is in red on this one, FastAPI is in blue, and the slope is obviously steeper for FastAPI. You can do a projection on how long it'll take until it might overtake Flask, but it's certainly the direction it's heading in. And again, this is just GitHub stars. This is not everything else. But I think if you're watching what's happening and seeing people talking about things, FastAPI is gaining a lot of mind share. So Flask has been kind of in the back end here, and I was tempted to put it in, but let's face it, this was already a lot of stuff to look at, so I didn't. You're welcome. But just want to mention it briefly. Flask was a big inspiration, and it's been super helpful for building FastAPI. And it does have some more async support as a version 2.0 of Flask, but it's not really full support. It's still a WSGI server, not an ASGI. So it's not really going to be easily full asynchronous. You can try to do some things with middleware, or you can try to use some other packages that try to switch over to ASGI, but at that point, I feel like you should just probably go use FastAPI. FastAPI is faster and does use typing, and it's certainly becoming more popular. As I mentioned earlier, Gradio just switched over to FastAPI, so again, another kind of big vote in that direction. And But Flask is nice. I think if you want to do a quick web app, it's going to be doing some HTML. I think that's one of the things. Yeah, right. Okay, a couple different questions here. I will come to those in a second. Okay, so grabbing your luggage here, we're getting some takeaways here on our test flights. You made it up and down a whole bunch of flights, and that's great. You know, we always like to go kind of see what the new shiny thing is. That's why we're all here, hopefully. But I'd say, you know, do you want to invest the time in this? Maybe it depends on how much time you have. I think using Flask is fine right now, or using Django or whatever. As long as it's meeting your needs, that's great. I wouldn't say you need to step away. But if you are just kind of looking at the world like, what can I go work on next here? You know, it's nice to work on stuff that's growing in popularity. That's important for open source projects. That's where they're going to see a lot of maintainability in the future, hopefully, and a lot of future growth. So it's worth looking at what's there and growing and what's quick to get off the ground with. You don't want to be able to move quickly. So I'd say, you know, if you're just coming to Python, you're newer to this, maybe you want to get working with something, you know, check out Streamlit. That's a great way to really feel like you can get some wins and to get something into an actual servo model in production like fairly quickly. You know, maybe it's not what you need for your Fortune 500 company for their main data needs, but it can be super useful on smaller teams and for prototyping things and getting things out the door. If you really need a lot of custom styling or more than a single page app, that's not necessarily gonna fit the bill. Gradio is just super fun here with these Hugging Face models and playing with stuff like that. I think this is definitely something cool and worth exploring and watching. At this point, I think it's just kind of more in that like fun area, you know, to play around with at this point. And then FastAPI. If you're going to be out there really serving some data, I think that is really great. Wonderful to connect it to a strong front end if you have a larger team and people are using some kind of really fast JavaScript front end. So I think that's a good way to go. So yeah, if you're just new here, just something here, you want to learn, just trying to get started with Python, you will have some frustrations with FastAPI. I think it's fair to say, like things will come up. And Gradio a little bit too. Streamlit is kind of the lowest lift, so I'd say that's a great place to get started and then work on other things. And that is what I've got in terms of recommendations. So if you have questions here, I'm going to check out what's going on in the Slack and Zoom. So please do put any questions you have there. And then I've got a brief form here, very short, that has like one numeric question. Then if you want to leave some open free response kind of stuff, you can or not, I don't care. But we'd love to hear how you feel about what we're doing here at DSDC. And if you have any feedback for me about this presentation, that would be great. I don't usually, I teach data science. I kind of give presentations a lot of times, but I'm usually live coding stuff. This was kind of a different way for me to go about it. So let me look here at what folks are saying here. Okay, so how do these fit in an ML model? DevSec security ops pipeline, DevSec ML ops, where you have to shift left. Will saying, I think Tommy's saying, I think this would fit in at the end of that pipeline. Is model delivery? Yeah, exactly. This is pretty late in things. Absolutely, and different with different use cases. FastAPI does have a number of things where it's a little more security minded right out the gate than something like Flask. So it could be nice there. Gradio, Streamlit, you know, Gradio is younger. I would be more careful there. Streamlit does have secrets that you can use securely. Gradio might too. I'd have to double check on that, but the folks at Streamlit are definitely thinking about that too. Will says, Streamlit for demo apps, FastAPI for prototype real apps. FastAPI will require you to do more software development. Absolutely, yeah. Gradio looks promising. It does. I think Gradio is really interesting here, for sure. Flag feature for results. Yeah, are these data types agnostic? Images, Textio. Great question, Raven. Yeah. So that is. So there. Check out the Streamlit API docs. They really have beautiful docs, and they show you how you can put can get images, serve images, you know, whatever it is you want to do with them, with lots of different types of data, audio, movie data, all kinds of things. So yes, you can do lots of things there. It's more wiring things up by hand with FastAPI. And then in Gradio has some interesting different ways to get data in. I was going to show, was I going to show one of these? I was playing with one just a little bit earlier, if I can find it right here. Yep, there's a Gradio. So I'll share this. This is just on Gradio's main page here. They've got this image sketch recognition that you can check out. So who wants to play Pictionary? Draw a common object like a shovel or a laptop. I don't know how I'm going to draw a shovel. Let's see if I can draw a shovel. I'll take the bait. It's a line, it thinks, with 15%, or a hot dog. This is, I'm not trying to do like a Alex symbol or something. I'm trying to do a shovel. I don't know. Shovel, 7%. That's a broom, it thinks. Okay, cool. So it's doing some image classification. Like, that's pretty cool, right? I can just play with that right here in the browser and it works. So I think that is neat. So different, to answer your question, different frameworks here do have some out of the gate different ways to get data in. And I think Gradio is, all about machine learning here. Streamlit's more, any kind of Python objects we want to play with. So Gradio and Streamlit, they both have some interesting ways to get data in, but it's not exactly the same. Yeah. Feedback form, yeah, please check that out. Ravi asks, I am not used to working with HTML. Can I still use FastAPI? Yes, you can, absolutely. So again, it's nice for serving data to folks, and ideally you're not using it for HTML, I would say. You can use those Jinja templates if you want. For those, you might want to spend a little time with HTML, but if you know some Python already, I think you'll find that HTML is a pretty quick pickup. You shouldn't have to go super deep with it, but at least with my students, we spend a lot of time with Python, and then just do a quick HTML starter lesson you can find online, probably something very similar. And yeah, they're ready to go with it. So I would say, if you don't want to deal with HTML, go with Streamlit or Gradio. And if you're just serving data, FastAPI is fine, but you might have to get a little bit into the HTML there with FastAPI if you want to use it as a kind of a web app, or some other language if you're already into JavaScript, but presumably then you know a little bit of HTML too. So yeah, you can still use it for sure. You can use it to serve out some data. Varaf asks, any suggestions for interactive visualizations / simulation tools? I'm not sure exactly what the context is there. There are Jupyter notebooks are a great, if you're familiar with those, are really great for kind of interactive work with visualizations. If you're looking for something to serve that you want more like on a website, Plotly is something that I like a lot. Simulation tools, if you're going to more like evaluating models and things like that, Yellowbrick is a machine learning visualization type library. A lot of the folks who started that are based around in the DC area here. So you can check that out. So if you want to elaborate on that question anymore, and I'll check it out. But that's what comes to mind here. Radio sketch recognition app. Oh, is this somewhere in here? Yeah, some of these models are really, image speech verification, image segmentation. Some of the demo models are not all great. I had an MNIST example earlier that they used to have on here that I put in. It couldn't recognize my 7 versus an 8 or whatever, so I scrapped it.
Yeah, I drew a smiley face and it said it was a triangle, so I drew a triangle and it said it was a rifle.
Only because there's a model behind it here.
But the API worked really fast, and I think that is the feature they're trying to highlight there.
That's absolutely right. As now it's like we're probably crashing it right now. Yeah, I was playing with it. I tried to do a smiley face earlier, and I don't think I got it. Cookie. Smiley face is getting higher. mustache, I think, is what it was giving me. Getting higher on smiley face. It is kind of fun to play with. And maybe your smiley face just wasn't very good. I don't know. There you go. I want to use perhaps I want to use to interact with models, change input parameters, and see the outcomes. Oh yeah. I would say Streamlit is just really great for that graph, where you can use those widgets, change the numbers, and watch the outputs in real time. And Streamlit it can show you that. It can also show the code if you want to explain what you're doing to people, if that's something they want to see. If it's great for teaching, and just kind of showing off how you're doing your work. So yeah, it's really nice. That looks like a good cookie though. Varaf, have you used Google's what if tool? If I have, I've forgotten. What if tool, pair code. Oh yeah, this is cool. I'm looking at this on another screen. I'll share it over here too. Didn't know what results would come up there, but visually probe the behavior of trained machine learning models with minimal coding. This is cool. If I've done it, I've already forgotten it. So I do want to check this out more. Thank you, Varaf. It's very cool. I'll put the link to this in Slack and Zoom. So let me go back up to my original questions here too. We got a few answers. Actually, I have none as an option here too. Some people have used a couple different things. That's great. So Raven's question was, in response to my question, one thing you're hoping to learn today, are any of these more scalable than others? Any work for video, geospatial, text, or audio? Yes. So theoretically, maybe they all can for all, but Streamlit right out the gate for a number of those, and for at least some of them also Gradio. More scalable, I haven't tested the scaling of them extensively. FastAPI is used for huge loads, and it certainly can scale. To what extent can Streamlit and Gradio keep up? I am not sure. The Gradio enterprise editions of both, especially enterprise edition of Studio, paid plans, should be able to handle pretty much anything you throw at them, I would expect. But I have not tried that myself. Has anyone, a question here, I guess, for just anyone, have any of you used the paid plans of Gradio or FastAPI? Or sorry, Streamlit? I'll just ask here in Slack and Zoom. Yeah. Okay, I'm not seeing any yeses here, but if you have, I'd be very curious about that. Any other questions of any sort here? Again, please do fill out that our little form. It'd be much appreciated. It's not a, promise you, it is very brief. I'll put that in the main channel here again. And with that, it is 7 o'clock on the nose. And if I don't hear any other questions, going once, going twice, going 3 times, I'm going to say thanks for flying. Hope you enjoyed it and found something at least a little bit interesting, a little bit. And they said, huh, I kind of want to go check out that library and maybe have a little bit better understanding of how they work. Do check out the GitHub repo if you want. There's a bunch of code up there that you can play with. And thanks for coming, and have a wonderful night. Take care.
Thank you, everyone.